Interviewing tips for a new remote job. Let's talk about interviewing, guys. So today I want to go over a few things that are extremely important when you're interviewing virtually. A little different than when you're in person. So number one, always dress to impress. I don't care if it's an interview that is on a Skype, if it's on a phone call. Let me tell you, I still wear a suit jacket. Why? Because it shows that you're ready and shows that you came prepared for whatever job you're going in. Remember, you always want to dress for the job you want, not the job you have. So regardless of what it is, wear a suit. Basic rule, wear a suit. Number two, let's say you're getting into the interview. One of the things that I stress in my classes, you guys know, is when you're thinking about your interview, you should already have a whole set of answers pre-planned. Why, you ask? When you pre-plan answers, then number one, it looks like you're prepared. Number two, you don't get stuck in the ums and uhs and I'm not really sure. And number three, it gives you a chance to curate that answer before you give it to an interviewer. So, perfect example. Let's talk about, tell me about yourself. Okay, number one, do not read off your resume. I've seen it way too many times. Not something you want to do. Do not read off of your resume. If you're reading off your resume, guess what I've already done? Read your resume. So don't read off of it. That's not what I want to hear. When I'm asking you to tell me about yourself, I am asking you to give me something that's not on your resume. Give me a high-level overview that connects to the position that you're applying for. Key tip here. When you're interviewing for any job, the last piece that you should say in the tell me about yourself bucket is something that ties directly to the position you're applying for. So let's say we're going back through my history, going to talk quickly about school, going to talk about how that got me into my first job. Remember, it's not school just to talk about school, it's school to talk about how it got me into my first job. Going to talk briefly about the skills I learned there, going to then move into management, start talking about my management skills, and then let's say I'm applying for a manager of operations position. I'm going to talk about the last job that I specifically did that was related to managing operations teams. Why? It leads the interviewer, so whoever you're talking to, it leads them down the point to then ask you about other skills at that job, which then is already proving you know what to do at that job. Don't go off on a tangent. It's really important. The tell me about yourself, you should do ahead of time. So if you've never done this before, film yourself, just like I am now. I know, it sucks the first time you're on camera. Doesn't matter. But what you want to do is film yourself. Tell me about yourself. I'm asking you right now. Tell me about yourself. Show me your videos. Let's see what they look like. Why? They should be less than 90 seconds. Yep, that's right. Less than 90 seconds. If you take 20 minutes to tell me about yourself, guess what? I checked out. Most managers are not in that. We're in here for a half hour normally. We have 100 other emails. Our teams are going off. Skype's going off. All the 100 other things. Guess what? You need to make an impact. You need to make it important. And you need to make it personal. Why are you good for this job? Tell us. Put it in your tell me about yourself. It's not that hard to change for every interview, particularly if you practice ahead of time. In addition, so as we're rolling through the questions, you guys know if you read my book, if you didn't, click the link below, get a copy. What are the top 10 interview questions? You should already be prepared for them, right? They're going to ask you about yourself. They're going to ask around your career history. If you have gaps on your resume, the interviewer is going to ask. Make sure you have a good answer. And the truth is, as many people may not think about this, motherhood is not a bad answer. But you need to talk about what you've done during motherhood that helps build you back for this career. You can't just say, yep, I raised my kids for 20 years and now I'm getting back into the workforce. That sounds like you did absolutely nothing. Frame it in a positive way. Yes, I was PTA president, I raised my kids, I learned some really valuable organizational skills, how to manage my time better, and I'm ready to get back in the workforce. Doesn't that sound better? Of course it does, because it's showing that you were still using skills that are useful in the workplace when you were at home being a mom. There's nothing wrong with being a mom, but if you're coming back to the workforce, you're coming back for a reason, so let's make sure you're prepared. In addition, as you go through the other interview questions, a lot of the other ones that you're going to see are things that you should have heard about before. So they're going to ask about specific skills that normally were on the job description. So when you go through the job description, make sure you read the whole job description. I know that they're on LinkedIn, you click the button real quick and you go all the way down. Guess what? I have put keywords in job descriptions and then asked people for those words. Yep, I've been that person. When I have 1,500 applicants, it's a really quick way to see if somebody was paying attention. It's also a way to see if they read the last line of the job description. A lot of companies do this, a lot, because it helps weed out people that are just skimming through and hitting the button 1,000 times. Now, I'm not saying all do it. I'm not saying that's the best tactic, right? But it is something that people do. Make sure you read it and make sure you pick out those keywords because the keywords are going to be extremely important when you're going through your interview. Those are things that the recruiter and the hiring manager are looking for, right? If they list 4 tools, so let's say they list Salesforce as their CRM. If you don't know anything about Salesforce, that's something you need to prepare for in your interview. So let's say you have always used Microsoft Dynamics and you haven't used Salesforce. In your interview, you should say, I haven't used the Salesforce CRM. However, I have used Microsoft Dynamics. I know they're similar and I'm really adaptable. Great. What does that do? It shows you're acknowledging your deficiency, you're acknowledging that you do have skills in a different CRM, and you're acknowledging that you're adaptable and you can work with this, right? That gives your interviewer the time to ask a question back if it's important to them or move on. It also gives you the opportunity to get to that no faster if it's going to be a no. If they said Salesforce was a must and you don't have it, guess what? Not going to happen. That's okay. Move on to the next one. You have to remember, through this interview process, this is something that you need to take step by step, and there's going to be a lot of no's before you get the right yes. It's interviewing them and interviewing you, right? You want to make sure this is the right job. You want to make sure this is the right position. So as we continue through these interview questions, other things that you're going to hear, as I said, reference my book. You guys go in, it's got the full list of all your top 10 questions. Take a look, fill it out, actually take the time and record those videos. Really important. But let's say we're getting to the end of the interview, right? We're wrapping up here. When you're in your final pieces of your interview, what are things that are really important to do? Number 1, always make sure that you have questions to ask. Do not come into an interview and say, nope, I don't have anything to ask. Thanks for your time. Guess what that tells me as the interviewee? That tells me that as the interviewer, it tells me you don't care, right? That means you didn't research anything. This job's no different than any of the other ones. That's not the right choice. So make sure you come with questions. A really great, easy question to start with is, what does the day-to-day of this job look like? Why is that a good question? It shows that you care about the position. It also shows that you have an interest in what this is going to be and you can see yourself in that position. Really important to build that rapport with that interviewer. So make sure you always have questions to ask. Number 2, always thank the interviewers for their time. I always recommend a personalized email after the interview because that's a really great way to separate yourself from the hundreds of other people that are in the process and working through. Because I can tell you, out of all of the hundreds of people that I have interviewed, less than 10% send an email. Less than 10%, guys. Easiest way to get yourself a job, send a follow-up email. Now, once the email is done, once you guys get into all of your compensation discussions, let's say you get to negotiation, take a look at our next video. We're going to go all into how you can negotiate for a better raise, more money, and all that fun stuff. So, all right, hit the subscribe button. Talk to you guys later.